Hello and welcome to Understanding Depression. I'm so glad you're here with us today. Whether you're a long-time listener or this is your first episode, thank you for showing up for your mental health, or the mental health of someone you care about. Today, we're diving into a topic that often feels mysterious or even intimidating: what actually happens during a depression diagnosis. Maybe you've thought about seeing a therapist or psychiatrist, but you're unsure what the process looks like. Maybe you're afraid of being judged, or you've been told to just get over it, so you're not sure if your pain is valid enough to seek help. In this episode, we'll break it all down. We'll walk through each step of the diagnostic process in a way that's clear, compassionate, and stigma-free. We'll talk about what professionals look for, how they make decisions, what tools they use, and what you can expect emotionally during the journey. So if you've ever asked yourself, what happens if I go in for a mental health check? Will they take me seriously? Will they just label me? What if it's not depression? What if it is? You're in the right place. Let's explore this together. Before anyone gets diagnosed, there's usually a moment of realization. Something feels off. It might be overwhelming sadness that doesn't go away. It might be a loss of interest in things you used to love. For some, it's physical, like fatigue or sleep issues. For others, it's emotional numbness or even anger. But here's the thing: recognizing these signs can be hard, because depression doesn't always scream. It often whispers. And life is busy. Stress, burnout, grief, they can all mimic depression. So the first real step in a diagnosis often begins with reflection, noticing, wondering, and then reaching out. Sometimes it's a friend who points it out. Sometimes it's after Googling symptoms late at night. Or maybe it's when you realize you haven't felt like yourself in weeks, or even months. This first step is important, and it's incredibly brave. Reaching out to a healthcare provider or therapist doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're self-aware. It means you're taking your mental health seriously. Once you decide to seek help, you'll likely schedule an initial consultation. This could be with a general practitioner, a psychologist, a licensed therapist, or a psychiatrist. The first appointment is usually a conversation. You won't be expected to have all the answers. You don't need to use fancy terms or have your life story ready. What matters is honesty. Mental health professionals will ask open-ended questions like, how have you been feeling lately? Are there things you've stopped enjoying? How is your sleep, appetite, and energy level? Have you had thoughts of self-harm or hopelessness? They may also ask about your personal history, any traumatic events, family mental health background, substance use, or medical conditions. The goal is to understand what's happening, not to judge you, but to connect the dots. Some providers might also use screening tools, like the PHQ-9 questionnaire, which helps measure the severity of depression. Mental health professionals typically use the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, the DSM-5, to determine if someone meets the criteria for clinical depression. According to the DSM-5, to be diagnosed with major depressive disorder, a person must experience at least 5 of the following symptoms over a 2-week period, and at least one of the symptoms must be depressed mood or loss of interest or pleasure. Depressed mood most of the day, markedly diminished interest in almost all activities, significant weight loss or gain, insomnia or hypersomnia, fatigue or loss of energy, feelings of worthlessness or excessive guilt, difficulty concentrating, recurrent thoughts of death or suicide. These symptoms must cause significant distress or impairment in daily functioning. It's not just about having a bad day, it's about sustained change that impacts your quality of life. Before confirming a depression diagnosis, healthcare providers often rule out other possible explanations. This includes checking for physical conditions that can mimic depressive symptoms, such as Thyroid problems, vitamin deficiencies, chronic illness, or pain, hormonal changes, blood tests, or physical exams might be recommended. Some medications can also affect mood, so a full review of any current prescriptions is common. This step is critical because the goal is an accurate diagnosis. Mislabeling someone helps no one. A good mental health professional will take the time to be thorough and thoughtful. Getting diagnosed with depression can stir up a mix of emotions. For some, it's a relief, like finally having words to describe what they've been feeling. For others, it might feel scary, stigmatizing, or even confusing. You might wonder, does this define me? Am I broken? Will people treat me differently? It's important to remember, a diagnosis is not a label, it's a starting point. It gives you and your care team a map. It opens the door to treatment, to understanding, to healing. It says, this is real, and there are paths forward. Your reaction is valid. Take your time to process. And if you feel overwhelmed, talk to your provider about those feelings, too. This is a journey, not a sentence. After diagnosis, the next step is creating a treatment plan. This could include talk therapy, like CBT or interpersonal therapy, medication, such as SSRIs or SNRIs, lifestyle changes, like sleep hygiene, exercise, nutrition, support groups or peer support, mindfulness, journaling, or creative outlets. The plan will depend on your needs, preferences, and the severity of your symptoms. It's rarely one size fits all, and it can evolve over time. Working with a mental health professional is a collaborative process. You're not being fixed, you're being supported. If you've been on the fence about seeking help, please hear this. Your feelings matter. Your struggle is real, and help is not only available, it's worth reaching for. You don't need to have the worst symptoms to deserve care. You don't need to wait for a crisis. Just the fact that you're listening to this episode tells me you care about your well-being. A depression diagnosis doesn't mean weakness. It means you're human, and asking for help is a powerful act of strength. So, what happens during a depression diagnosis? You share, you reflect. A professional listens, observes, and asks thoughtful questions. Together, you name what's going on, and then you begin to explore ways to feel better. It's not a one-time event, it's a process, but it's one that can change lives. If this episode resonated with you, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing to Understanding Depression. Your support helps more people find this content, and maybe even find hope. And remember, you are not alone. Your story matters, and healing is possible. Thanks for listening, and take gentle care until next time. This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not replace professional medical advice. If you are in emotional distress or thinking about suicide, please seek immediate help from a licensed provider or contact a mental health hotline in your country.